Welcome to Realm of Millenia. Be ye man, woman, child, a spirit, creature, a demon, be ye a native migrator, or maybe in some sort of invader into realm. Welcome, for I am your host, the MILLENIANmailmen, here today bringing you guys and gals another Theatrical Thursday, where I basically give you a character introduction of a new character, and otherwise just try to be extra, hope you read all about it all day long. Right? Now, this Theater Thursday that we're going to be revealing is SPD, Sleep Paralysis Demons. And I have a particular SCP tie-in to this character. And that's for later, right? This particular character I have here, I just got into a groove one day while I was writing the actual book, Realm of Millenia. While I was writing in my notebook for book number 1 of the Realm of Millenia book series, I got into this groovy state, and I'm like, what about this? And I got into a kind of a side bending state where I went down a rabbit hole of trying to get into the headspace of a particular character and their mindset and the medical aspects and the psychological. And while I was under that rabbit hole, I kind of basically said, I gotta contemplate more than just this character. I need to undergo the understanding of a villain before I can fully get into the vibes of the character I want to portray. So how about I just start writing down some quick BS here, quick BS there, just to write up and drudge up a random backstory of a villain real quick, and then from there, when I get this baseline understanding of the terrible psychosis of this kind of villain, can I be able to be no, this character isn't that bad, but they're also not as good as the holier than thou guys, right? So I wanted to kind of make a dichotomy so I could find a very decent median middle to this particular character I did want. And this story of the sleep paralysis demons with a Z is ultimately the relative villain and their backstory of why they're such a terrible villain, right? This guy is so terrible. So to articulate how horrible and terrible this guy is, I would give you the backstory of this particular character and why this character is the way this character is, right? So ultimately, that is the case there, and this is the difference. That is how I came to have this whole story of sleep paralysis demons. I was working on a rabbit hole. I went down a rabbit hole trying to create a narrative for one character, but I realized I was delving too far and too deep into irrelevant things, because I digress a lot. With stream of consciousness, I digress a lot. So when I realized how far I was digressing, I decided that I was going to uplift all of these things and put it into the notebook and make sure I designate it as an unnamed character for now, and I'll name it later when I have all the details for it. And after I finished it, I'm like, cool, I love this. Now how can I pick apart and disable these things to get to the character I actually wanted to convey to the audience for this character that is about to be in book number 1, instead of this alternative character who will probably make it into book number 7 at earliest. So sleep paralysis demon ultimately is off that basis, and in there more on the whole arch of the story line here. Sleep paralysis demon doesn't directly follow the actual life and story of the villain themselves. It kind of hops back and forth between the villain and the relative protagonist of the story, right? Where you're following the not villain for most of the story, and then you encounter the true villain, and then you follow the good guy, right? So in the beginning, the story of sleep paralysis demons is very Ocean's 11-esque in that the person who you think is doing all the things is not actually... No. I got that wrong. There is an aspect of Ocean's 11, but the major thing about the beginning of this is like The Usual Suspects. If you haven't watched the movie, it's a great movie. Please watch it, right? So there is an aspect of The Usual Suspects that I incorporated into the very beginning of Sleep Paralysis Demons. And then from there, I went on to show and expose, like, hey, this guy is a villain that you should be worried about, and you might, and without this prior expose that I'm doing here, you might not know that is the case. But ultimately, hey, this guy is a villain. It's not just someone talking and telling you things. No, he is the villain. Okay, don't get it twisted. He is the villain. Watch out. Right? And that's how I start off. Right? So in the very beginning, I have a villain here talking and speaking. And from there, it transfers over to, hey, I am the big bad villain, and you just didn't know it yet. And then, hi, Mr. I am the big bad villain. Here's the most innocent character who you're about to traumatize and turn into another villain, right? Villains aren't born, they're created type of deal, right? Villains aren't born that way, they're created and developed into villains. Every villain was a good person until they weren't anymore, right? So that is the whole archetype of the story I have here for Sleep Paralysis Demons. It is heavily incorporated to the mental aspects of psychosis and all of these things. It is very, very heavily incorporative to this aspect of mental trauma and mental anguish. It is very much a psychological piece. It is not as psychological and mental acuity based as, say, an anime like Death Note, but it is heavily reliant on a advanced level of medical understanding for mental psychosis and certain terminology in that aspect. I like to delve in the realm of layman's terms and things, but there is a certain limit to layman's terms where you need a bit fancier words here and there to get through. And one of those is psychosis and the psychological. And one word I have in there is psychological psychosis or physiological psychosis, where you physically exhibit things that happen in the mind, where like part of the whole idea of sleep paralysis is that, hey, you woke up too fast and now you're in a state between you being awake and you being asleep where your eyes are open and you are seeing things happening around you, but your body can't move. Your eyes are open, but your mind is still semi-dreaming. So half the things you might think you see aren't actually there because your mind is still jumbling up the facts. Like, so you think you're seeing a demon walking across the way, but it's really just a jacket on the coat rack. Where you think that you're seeing a shadowy figure come across and try to do weird, freaky things to your toes at the edge of the bed and drag you down to the abyss. Oh, you just were not fully awake yet. Yeah, but my ankle is twisted. Yeah, because that's kind of what happens. Your physiological psychosis has your body adjust to the things your mind was thinking about. So you thought you were on fire and you were having rug burn, while in the middle of your sleep paralysis, your body subtly managed to make you get rug burn from the blanket you were wearing and stuff, right? Now, there is another aspect of physiological psychoses where people tend to exhibit physical aspects of whatever they think about in general. There's a bigger medical term for it, and it's a real thing, but yeah, I don't really care about all that, right? And I don't really think that is going to be necessarily important for a whole F-ton of people in reality either, so I'm not going to draw undue awareness to the fact that other than this type of thing exists. I'm not going to burden you down with the actual clinical medical term for this case of the thing happening. I'm just going to let you know this type of thing exists and this is the effects it has. Right? It's a type of physiological psychosis where so long as you think about something, it'll have an effect. Like, put someone with schizophrenia on steroids. Schizophrenics are people who see and hear things that aren't actually there, right? Give the mere concept of schizophrenia some steroids, and now the things that these people think they see and think that they hear will actually have an effect on them physically, even if nothing is happening. Right? You put this person with a very, very severe case of physiological psychosis in a padded room with nothing. Put them in a different dimension, blank space. There's nothing that could possibly hurt them. They are relatively immune to genuine death because there's nothing there that could hurt them. But they have schizophrenia, right? So they're seeing things that aren't there. Like, and I'm all this right now is the real world, right? Someone with a very, very bad, severe case of physiological psychosis will see fire, even though they're in a blank place with no harm, no wrongs. They'll see things with their mind's eye like a knife, and then they'll get cut. And real wounds will show up randomly upon their body because their mind is what is trying to make up the gaps in the reality, right? So for people with very heavy, extremely severe cases of like physiological psychosis, my reality is the reality because whatever I think, my mind will genuinely make it true. I think this house is on fire. I could suffocate. My mind would force my body to suffocate on non-existent fumes, like there was no oxygen in the room. My very blood cells would stifle the oxygen out of themselves because my brain is telling them there is no oxygen, use up all the oxygen because there's no oxygen, right? People with this case of physiological psychosis could feel, the house is burning down, my flesh is burning, and their brain is going to, from the inside out, make the body develop second and third degree burns. Crazy severe. They could literally, if they so long as think about it, right? If they can genuinely imagine themselves burning in a house fire, they will literally just spontaneously combust. Genuinely, that is a real thing people can do. Like, people can actually spontaneously combust in reality. Yeah, it's extremely rare, but that is why most people who have this extremely rare thing tend to be relatively narcissistic, and we like it that way, where they are just detached from the reality. Because if they had empathy and could empathize with people and hypothetical scenarios, they would literally spontaneously combust. Like, can't you empathize to the people who had loved ones who died in a fire? I'm burning, the fire, put the fire out. Why are you doing this? How dare you? You're making fun of me. No, do you not see this fire? This fire came out of nowhere. It's burning me alive. And next thing you know, this white person is half black on their arm, on the side of their left arm, because their mind burned their flesh alive, even though they never been anywhere near a flame. Their mind activated the melanin in their skin to burn off the top layer, and a couple of centimeters down into their tissues, past the epidermis layer, is now charred with second degree burns, as if someone poured gasoline on their skin. Because now they're entirely, that is how the extremely severe aspects of physiological psychosis are. But it is an extremely rare condition that happens to less than 1% of 1% of people, period, in all of existence. But it is a thing. Right? So physiological psychosis, mind affects the physical realm, right? And that is the basis of what you might need to really know about in order to understand the first quarter section of this short about the sleep paralysis demons. Because I really get highly medical, psychological, and scientific in the first page and a half, where all the detectives in the hospital are talking about is this understanding of what a physical psychosis is, right? I kind of brushed over it in the first page or two, because speak layman terms, get to the point, right? I was really racing to get to the story itself, but now that I have read it and I do fully understand it, and I understand my audience, right? If you don't know what a physiological psychosis is, that is what a physiological psychosis is, right? It's a case where the physical is intermingled and tied with your psychological, right? Where your psychological can dictate what happens in the physical realm of your body. It doesn't go past that. It is not a matter of your mind affecting the physical realm and to the extent of telepathy and stuff like that. No. It is just the aspect of psychosis. Your mind controls every aspect of your body to an insanely absurd degree. And that is just what that is, right? So there was the aspect of physiological psychosis, and there was dimensions. I'm pretty sure I made a video on dimensions versus realms, and dimension and realms. If I didn't, I'll do that eventually. There was, what else? in the story there was excuse me. In the story there was also aspects of like voodoo and spirituality and stuff. I feel like I talked about that good enough, but I'll read it again and maybe I'll make a second video if there isn't anything. But I feel like that was the only one I kind of skipped over for this video, so when I was reading it and ruining my voice for it. I'm not a voice actor, I promise. Don't try to find my voice anywhere online. It's not there. I promise you. Outside of this channel, you will not find my voice. I am no voice actor, so I am terribly straining my voice just to play these roles for the audio aspect. But hey, that's just me, your Millennium Mailman. I sure do hope that you did enjoy the reading of Sleep Paralysis Demons. It's gonna be cut up into a series the same way The Legend of Cerberus was. And then naturally I will post the full video of me reading the full thing all the same. Right? Honestly, I'll have, you know what, I'll there's plenty of time in the day. So I'll read The Legend of Cerberus today and I'll post it on a different day. How about that? Yeah. But anywho, that's just me, the Millennium Mailman. I sure do hope you leave a like if you like what I had to say, or at least how I said it. Leave a comment on the video. Start a debate, start a conversation down there. I check my email once a week if you want to send me an email at millennianmailmen@gmail.com. Share the video for more exposure, or subscribe if you feel like it. Peace, love, and happiness, and all the best of things to you. Till next time.